trying to do?
Sure, I will.
Say got
Let's
it.
see. Mark is not with us here today, so,
Let go goes
or
away.
at least not in yet. So I'm going to be trying to record this, but I have no idea how to
Shrink it.
get it up onto YouTube, which he normally does. Got a few more coming in.
Or it stays, but now it won't.
Well, I know when
What
you
you
hit
do
the
is-
record button, it says record to cloud or record to wherever. And if you record it to the cloud, then it gives you a link that you
But
can
they're
just
saying
pass
yours-
along from there, and then it can be downloaded.
Or have you
Yeah,
stopped?
unfortunately, I don't have room in my cloud anymore. I've filled it up.
Hold the Alt key and hit the tab key one at a time.
And I've already paid $160 some odd.
So now all you need to do is that, and you should be on that. It goes between, toggles between the last two things you were on.
Hey, Janet, do you know how to record to the cloud?
When you hit the record button, it should give you the option. It'll pop up, record to this computer or record to the cloud. Did
Yeah.
it not do that?
So you need to.
No, I can't. My cloud is full.
I can
Literally.
send it to I can send it to Mark afterwards if you want me to. After I
That would be good. Mark just sent me an email. It just says he had to go back east to Ohio. They unfortunately had a death in the family, so he won't be able to attend. He's asked if somebody can record it and then share it with him.
Yeah,
So
I'm pretty sure I have his email. I think I've done it before to him.
if not, you can just flick it to me.
Okay,
Oh, there's my
Okay.
9 o'clock alarm.
I'll have to send it through Hotmail though instead of Alamo Fire at Yahoo.
Okay.
Isn't he Mark at callermark.com or something like that?
Yeah,
I think
that's
so.
him. Yes,
Mark
it
at
is.
callermark.com, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I want to share with you.
Yeah. Well, let me
Yeah,
introduce
I've
you
got
first.
I've got his email.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming in. I know we're in an off week on our sessions, but Mike has graciously given up his time today to come in and see us. And in his schedule, getting a weekend free with Mike is quite difficult these days. So thank you very much for coming in to join us, Mike. For those of you that have not met Mike, last time he gave me a bit of a ribbing because I think he thought I must have been his PR manager. So I've toned down your introduction a little bit. But for those of you that don't know him, he's been calling since 1972, I believe. So that's 50 years this year, including square dance calling paid his own way through college or university. Mike lives in Mesa. You still in Mesa?
Apache Junction, actually.
Apache Junction in Arizona. A weekly club caller, a weekend feature caller, a traveling caller, international caller of renown. He's a feature caller at dances and festivals pretty much all around the world. He has published what is known as the Activator Stream Method of Patter Calling. I believe the second volume is currently out for release. So volume 1 and 2, if you have not got those, please get them because they give you a look at calling in a way that, especially your patter, that you may not have seen, but you may already been doing it, but now it'll all start making sense to you. Mike is a recording artist on several labels, including, are you still doing Mesa Apache Productions?
I am, as soon as my studio manager who lost his studio due to a divorce gets another studio.
Well, that's his own label, but you'll find him on many labels, his own label. And if you just want to listen to Mike sing with his dulcet tones, he produces not just square dance music, but all sorts of music. And one song that I heard recently that I'm dying to get, but I'm still trying to get it, is Roses and Love Letters, I think, is it?
Roses and Love Songs.
Roses and Love Songs. Beautiful song. If you haven't heard it, grab it. It's a nice, nice song. More importantly, why we're here today. Mike has for many years run his own popular callers in schools, teaching schools, and mentoring calls in the fundamentals of calling, which is not really focused on choreography only, which many caller schools. Mike takes the time to talk and teach about what it really means to be a caller and what it really takes to be a caller. And today we've asked Mike to come in and talk about 3 of those massively important aspects: showmanship, stage presence, and rapport. And I could go on for months talking about what Mike does and doesn't do and what he's given to this game, but I think the best description is Mike, dancing and learning with Mike is like, as Forrest Gump said, a box of chocolates. You don't always know what you're going to get, but you're always going to come back for more because it's just that good. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mike Sikorski.
Thank you, Mel. I'll go ahead and share the screen. You got it?
We got it.
Okay, real good. All right, I want to get that little bar out of my way there. Okay, so I was asked by Mel, you to talk about showmanship, stage presence, and rapport. And rather than take them as individual subjects, to me, it all falls under the heading of brand. So let's. Okay, so showmanship is how you act on stage, how you present yourself there, and stage presence is what you look like while you're on there, the confidence level you exude, and how you put that all together. And rapport is how you make your connection with each dancer, your clients. So to me, it all comes under the heading of brand. Now, we don't even think about brand like this because the hardest product of brand is ourselves. So we talk about, if you hear the word Hilton, well, are you going to think of hotels? You're going to think of Hilton Audio, or are you going to think of Paris Hilton? So see, we're leading up to how's the brand created, because you're talking about Chevrolet or Mercedes, you're talking about Crest toothpaste, whatever, and businesses spend millions and millions of dollars in advertising to direct the branding effort, which leads us to the question of where is a brand created? And before we get to that, look at that. The last line is important. What do the dancers think when they hear your name spoken? We know if it was Boot Barn or Domino's Pizza, we know it comes to we'll predict what comes to, but what comes to mind in the client's mind when your name is spoken? And that's where the brand is created, in the mind of each customer or client. We can't tell them what to think, but we can direct it. And that is with everything that comes out of our mouth. It's the way we present ourselves on stage, how we greet people. Everything adds up to that. Now, there's a dangerous pitfall in the creation of a brand. And it comes into the self-analysis aspect. And here's the problem that we run into, is that we tend to judge ourselves on our intentions, where everybody else judges us on our actions. And so we have to be continually looking outside of ourselves, hopefully building a power team, hopefully with a significant other, and keep them close. That's the old adage, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. Listen to everybody, listen to the ones who are speaking, listen to the ones who aren't. Now, as we go to a microcosm under the heading of brand, we could be either talking about showmanship or stage presence. But at the bottom line is, how are we relating to dancers? How are we doing that? That's the building of rapport goes over a period of time. I had Bob, you and Lucy got there a little late last night because of a family involvement thing. But prior to that, we had a couple come to a class that had tried to go to a different caller out in Florence, which is 45 minutes away from where this class was. And they had a problem in the fact that they went every week. And as she told me, we got tired of circle left and do over and over and over and over again. So they're driving in to do our class, and we progressed quite well last night. So you want to create the brand, the beginner's class that coming to you is fun, coming to you is where you're going to learn, and you're going to progress. The time will be worth it on many levels, the educational level, the personal fulfillment level, everything. We work very hard to do that. Now, it does help for you to invoke your heart. I got jumped into that a little bit earlier. I did want to relate a story here to get my own name and my own notes here. I'm talking about the effort of brand building. And one thing that's very hard to do is how do we listen to the silent majority? So I ask, how do your eyes work? If you want to know how somebody works their eyes on a crowd, look at a George Strait video. That guy's incredible. But I've always also noticed that I can tell the difference between a professional caller and an amateur caller, because the amateur caller is staring at one square and the professional caller is calling sequences together. And when they're doing those 3 or 4 call sequences that they know by heart, that gives them the freedom to glance around and look at everyone. Is there one person there that isn't smiling? Why? Was there a person that got to the next spot a little slower? This is where modules fail you. Because if they got there a little slower on a track 2, for instance, you're not going to want to hurry up and call recycle. You're going to want to be able to call girls trade. And maybe it's going to be girls trade, girls run, tag the line and face right to give you your 2-face line, which you've watched and you've noticed and you've made friends out of everybody that way. You've made clients that want to come back to your dance, because that's the whole thing, is to make them love your dance and how you made them feel so much that they agonize over the dance ending and they can't wait to get back to your next dance, and maybe they're going to bring friends with them. Now, in this branding effort, I also want to go and talk about business cards.
Not necessarily.
Now, business cards, let's put it this way. Back when I was promoting Bradley the Brown-Nosed Reindeer to radio, that'd be 1992, I had stations pick that up. I had one station that was a 50,000 watt station of AM country, and they picked that thing up, and it was once every 3 hours for 40 days around the clock. It was move Garth Brooks out of the slot, put me in the slot. I'd send him all kinds of promos. I did an on-air interview with him. And then I asked the music director, can you give me any advice to promoting? And he said, it's an old radio adage, sell the sizzle, not the steak. And I see this principle violated in almost every caller business card I see and almost every square dance flyer I see. They're so busy trying to sell the specifics, the steak, they forget that the most important part is the sizzle. Make them smell it, make them taste it, make them feel it. Can they feel that enjoyment and the fun when they hear your name spoken? When they see a flyer with your name on it, does it have a design that catches their eye and they immediately know the kind of fun they're going to have if they come to your dance? That's it. Now, I'll tell you a story that I had the great fortune of sitting beside someone on an airplane. We got into a conversation. This person was a branding expert and was teaching it at the university level. And I offered her one of my business cards, and she looked at me and said, this is brilliant, a square dance caller having a square card. My cards are square. You don't think about that when handing them out to square dance clubs, but I assure you a square card is going to sit in that stack or fit in their pocket differently than the regular card. They're going to know a different card's in there. Especially if you're trying to do the one-nighter type of dance and you're promoting yourself against a line dance teacher and a basket weaving teacher and whatever that is, having a square card identifies you as a square dance caller. And make sure you're branding the right thing, because they might sing whirl the girl away to the wagon wheel and do-si-do and different and swing your partner and be stomping their foot, and that's this kind of stuff my grandfather called, and that's called old time. We don't do that. This is modern Western square dancing. That should go on your card, particularly if you're doing the one-nighter type of gig. Does anybody have any questions before I continue on?
Mike, there was one that came in, and please feel free to just type your questions in the chat. You don't have to send them to me directly. How do you create, I think this is going back to, you said, that feeling of success. How do you create a sense of achievement when you're trying to generate everyone succeeds and you have that difficult or bad dancers that just don't seem to get it.
That is very problematic. One of the keys to that whole thing is the most important tool you have in your caller toolbox is you have to be the coolest person in the room to hang with. We all want to be great at patter. We all want to be great at singing calls. We all want to be great teachers. But at the end of the day, you got to be the coolest person in the room to hang with. And that's what you have to do. You have to visit with people. On the odd occasion, sometimes it depends on if you're running your own class or you're working for a club. If you're working for a club, you might have to have this conversation with them. There are dancers here that aren't ever going to get it. I don't think they're going to get it. And if I slow down, nobody's going to get it and graduate into your club.
Okay.
Now, one of the things we did, and Bob Furr, you were part of this effort. Last season, we did a beginner's class, and I barely got them through SSD because I started in January, had to finish by the end of March. At about week 6, week 7, I suggested to the club, who was having the class 5:30 to 7 and the club dance 7 to 9, let's make the first club tip a class tip and invite them in and we'll dance together. Now the president, Raylene, she said, I like the way you think. And by getting people in there like that and dancing with club members, some of the people that are lesser dancers figure out either they can't cut it and they're going to drop out, or you actually have some people say, well, if they can do it, by God, I can too. And they'll get busy and get it done. And now you've won. So you don't know, it's up to each individual, but I try to get beginners blended with the club as quickly as possible. That tends to help in these other problem areas as well. The other thing that happens is they want to bond with the club, and they do bond with the club when they're blended in like that. We had people wearing club badges, had joined the club before they graduated SSD.
That's good.
There is absolutely no way to codify that.
Yeah. The other question that came up, Janet just posted in the chat, would you put your picture on your business card?
Well, I do, but I frankly, if you're going to make it the size of your little fingernail, don't bother. My card, because I believe in the sizzle and the steak, my card is square. It's 2.5 by 2.5, and it has my picture on it with on one side with my MJS logo on it in full color. You turn it over, and in black print on the white card is Modern Western Square Dance Caller, name, phone number, email address. Yeah, and okay. She built the card, so she knows everything that's on it. Would you come repeat those words, please? This is my design genius here.
Everything on Mike's business card is his photo on the front with MJS, and then on the back, Mike Sikorski in bold font, a dark blue, the biggest font on the back, and then small underneath that, Modern Western Square Dance Caller. Below that, the phone number, then the email, then the website, and then he's got a little logo kind of thing that's in the bottom right corner.
And before she talks to you again, I'm going to remember to turn my left hearing aid on. And I would prefer they send the messages to Mel, because I'm not good at switching back and forth in all this stuff. So now, any more questions before I go on? Because I prefer to answer questions than just go on with some dedicated and determined lecture.
No, that was it, unless anybody has something.
Okay, I'm going to ask anybody to speak up right now if you have a question.
It's all good, Mike.
We're good. Okay. Every effort you have should be your branding effort. Look on Facebook and look at callers whose names you know. that appear to be just whining about everyday life. Everything you post on Facebook, everything you put on Twitter, everything that goes on a flyer or your business card, every conversation you have needs to be within your brand building effort. There's no such thing as being off the record. You need to always be on record. I think, yeah, we're pretty much down to the end of it. I don't take a lot of time with what I have to say, so we can open this for discussion.
Well, I have I don't know whether it's a question or what it is, but I mean, obviously as a caller, we want dancers to dance, but ultimately is our goal to, at this point in the game, to be recruiting new dancers? Should that not be, I guess, maybe a priority?
Well, I consider it to be an industry priority. I personally am teaching 3 beginners classes this season. That's assuming I get people. Now, October 28th around here is pre-season, and we had 2 squares dancing last night, most of them beginners. And then I'm going to start 2 other classes. So I consider it to be a high priority. So everybody has to look at it their own way, but I would look at it in terms of how are you building your own brand? You want to have the brand of y'all come and we're welcoming new people into the activity and let's build the club and get the club on board with all of your efforts that way, kind of like I described earlier. I don't know if that kind of answered your question or not. Am I going the wrong direction?
Well, no, in a way it did, because around here there's only one club actively dancing in Southern Indiana. The club I created is more of a concept, in the fact that I'm trying to get new dancers in by doing a lot of dance parties, festivals, lessons, teaching at the Y. And a lot of the existing dancers that I have run into have been very standoffish, might explain. I mean, they're very against changing or doing anything other than what's normally done.
Yeah. I would refer to my ultimate lifetime philosopher, which would be Jethro Gibbs on the NCIS program. And I have a coffee cup with Gibbsisms on it, thanks to a gift from Janet for Christmas. And one of his principles, which has been quoted in many books, is it's always better to beg forgiveness than to ask for permission. There's also a statement in Think and Grow Rich that says, don't tell people what you're going to do, just do it. They'll see it. And if you get successful, you're going to get 2 things from your competition that wanted to hold you back. You're going to get fear and anger. And if you got that in your competition, you're on the way to winning. If they put themselves in being competition with you, they've made themselves in opposition to you. And if that's what they end up feeling by what you've done, you're winning.
I think that goes hand in hand with another one that was coming in, is the difference between building personal rapport and the way it was stated. Well, how do you get past the difference between building personal rapport with dancers versus losing club rapport with the people you're calling for?
I would say
think that's along the line of change.
I would say if you're looking at it that way, you're looking at it erroneously.
Yep.
The branding, the rapport effort we're talking about here is how you deal with the club, with club members, with visitors, with dancers, anybody in your purview, because in this business, that's everything you are. You should be, and this is the same principles you use when you're treating somebody nice at the grocery store. Garth Brooks was asked, how do you get famous in music? He said, well, you become the best singer, the best songwriter you can, and then you just go out and see how many people you can treat nice. And so when you get into a personal relationship, remember these people, these dancers, they are your clients. They're by definition your clients. Many of them will want to be your friends. Trust me, they are not your friends. Every single person who's done that to me in my career, and I've been calling 50 years, every single person that's done that, there has come a point where it's push comes to shove. It's a break point. I have done something in my career that I felt was best for me and my brand and my business, and they disagreed with it. Now, if they come and tell me about it, that's fine, but then they have the option of accepting that you are doing this as a business. It is your business, whether it's your vocation or avocation. This is not a hobby. You're in this, it's a business. And in doing so, the computer did something weird.
No, that was me. I just stopped the screen sharing.
Okay.
So that we could see you.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, and I'm trying to get back to my train of thought here. I still got a couple of holes in my head from everything as I've gone through. So I've gotten rid of most of them. But these people are not friends. Now there is a couple who came and told me about something that happened, and they said, you know, Mike, this is your business. We don't want to tell you what to do, but we wanted to bring this up to you because it was with a member of a club that they belong to, and et cetera. And I said, well, thank you for bringing this to me. And I went and did what I had to do and went back to them and said, no, I had to handle it this way. That's just what I had to do for my business. And their attitude was, this is your business. We still want to be your helpers. And they helped me. They did my McLeod program for most of the 33 years I was there. Before that, they helped me with my Orange County programs. So occasionally you'll find a couple that'll do that, but I can count many more who got to that point and said, and just basically got to where they didn't dance with me. And in essence, it boils down to the fact that they issued a warranty that said I would be able to do something when I could not, because doing it for one would affect thousands or hundreds.
Yeah.
Be true to yourself, be true to your own brand. Friendships are outside of that. You deal with those in a different way. Did I answer that question?
I think so. Feel free to comment. It's your question.
Yeah, if I didn't answer it, speak up.
Yeah, I've got Steve Potter. You got your hand up.
Yeah, I like what you said about you had the students stay and do the first tip with the club. That's really nice. I think that should be done more. Also, we had a club I belonged to once. We asked the students to come out and help with the anniversary dance so they could see how an anniversary dance is. And what I would have liked to have seen there is the first tip include the new dancers so they could see what a different caller sounds like.
Well, that's a good thought, and I'd like to comment on it. In our class, we only let them in for the first tip for the first 2 weeks, and after that, it was the first 2 tips. And 2 weeks of that, then it was the first 3 tips, after which the club decided, well, we have people going in and out so much over the summer, we're just going to do SSD all summer and we'll worry about the rest of the calls when you get back. So I think the getting to the anniversary dance is fine. I think that's great, but I would be more of the thing where the first hour and a half includes all of them. And then the last hour is the club level. The club members have to dance with them, not just one tip, but over and over and over and over again, make all these friends. That's really what bonds them. So that's how I would add to what you said.
I like that.
This is a bit of a transition, but it's part of the discussion that was going on just before you logged on, was that transition. We were talking about the SSD program as well as other programs and whatnot. why it's working in some places, why it's not working in other places. And what you just said was along the line of the comment, how do you transition? Because people just want to use SSD to fill in their clubs. How do you do that transition successfully so that SSD is recognized, but then get the dancers going into the mainstream? And you just pretty much hit the nail on the head there. You transition into the club, then you dance an SSD program, and then at the start of the next year, you've got that separation again, which will transition back and forth between your SSD and your full mainstream. Is that about the summary?
Well, that might be somebody else's summary. I believe that whatever you're doing, you need to try to blend people.
Yeah.
The one thing these and you need to blend them, not just in a sample type way. When you invite them out to your anniversary dance and they dance one tip, you're giving them a sample. You don't want to give them a sample. You want to give them the whole pie. They've got to be in there. Now, after an hour and a half, they would be perfectly happy to say, well, why don't we just start cleaning up and let the club members go ahead and do their thing? And now you're blending more and more and more, that sort of thing. So
what do you do when you have a club that is just absolutely against doing anything other than what they have normally done?
I know what I would do. I would look for other
Well,
employment.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not employed by them. It's just, I'm just a member of the club there, but trying to get them to do anything, we just had a club meeting, that's they didn't want, because I made the suggestion of incorporating the new dancers in with the dance, and they were just dead set against it. They're like, nope, they gotta know mainstream before they join us, and we don't want anybody who can't dance that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that kind of attitude is why square dancing is dying.
Kip Garvey this morning said that the club that he was hired by, he had sat down, had a meeting with them, said, okay, what have y'all done that works? They didn't have anything that worked. Says, okay, this is what, if you want to do this, we're going to have to do it my way. You're going to listen and do it. And now they're up to 85 people when they're down to just 11.
I would suggest that to you that was a great story, and that getting the charisma of Kip Garvey is something that a lot of us don't have.
Right. But he sat down and he sat them down and said, this is how you're going to have to do it.
And that's exactly right. But it has to be the caller who then has the skill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
To make it happen and do it well. Now, one of the problems with mainstream, and one of the reasons I like SSD so much and not mainstream, is you don't have to teach stars, which are artificially horribly hard early in class. I've got an article on that coming out in the next issue of Direction, the Color Lab magazine. You don't, and Alamo and Do Paso, give me a break. Those things don't relate to anything we do in modern choreography, which is why I personally hope SSD takes over and mainstream dies the miserable death it deserves. It was a tragedy and a horrific accident when it first happened. Do you know the thing went through 23 drafts? It started about 2/3 the size it is, and it went through 23 drafts because, I'm making the rest of this up, California wouldn't come in if they didn't add this call. Virginia wouldn't come in if they didn't add that call. Taiwan wouldn't come in if they didn't add that call. Australia wouldn't come in if they didn't add that call. And on and on and on. Everybody had to have a call added in. And now you've got an albatross that we all have to deal with. And nobody will vote anything out because everybody has at least one of those calls being their favorite call, and they'll get a bunch of people to vote accordingly.
Just to add on to that, Mike, in conversation with Jerry Story, when he was looking at the SSD program, he was often asked, well, why don't you have, spin the top on the list? And his reaction was, well, in my area, we don't dance it all that often, and somebody had to make the choice, so I took it off.
I would say this, I agree with it, but for a different reason, in that callers use the horribly overused and please stop calling this. Maybe once a night call it. And after they don't, swing through, spin the top right and left through. That is such a tragedy. And then you try to teach it early, and trying to get dancers to do a right and left through out of a tidal wave that early on, you've just handicapped your class and slowed it down by 3 weeks. There's a way to speed your class up and make them better dancers, and that article is going to go in and issue a direction too. If you've been in one of my caller schools, you've got it, and it's how to teach trade.
It goes down to you're in charge, you make the decision. And along the line of what you said earlier, sometimes it's easier to ask forgiveness than it is permission, especially when it works.
Well, that's it. But you have to have your act together and get it done.
Yeah. Joe, you've got your hand up.
Yeah. I go along with what Mike has said about incorporating the new members into the club dances. I've done that with, I guess, the past dozen years or so, and we're able to not only keep our dancers, but at both ends, both the people that belong to the club, the existing dancers, and the newer dancers. We do, especially in Florida now, we're doing the first half hour belongs to the beginners, the newer dancers. And what happens is not everybody is an extrovert. Not everybody can mix and mingle that well with people. So if you're the couple that came in and you're shy, you may leave because nobody talks to you, because you just don't make that effort to go out and talk with people. So we need to teach our newer callers leadership as well, in that dancers need to know, or be reminded at least, when you see someone new, every single one of you should make an effort to talk to that person. Give them some questions to ask it, because not all your club members are extroverted enough to know how to talk to people. You know, you walk up, you say, "Hey, how you doing? You like to dance? What's your favorite call?" Whatever. So we need to teach them that. And for Janet, the catchphrase is the definition of insanity. If you keep doing the same things over and over, expecting different results, it ain't going to happen. That's insanity. So, and I go along with Mike, let them find someone else. I would not participate with that kind of a group myself. It's
Joe, I'm going to jump back in here because you reminded me of something that I wanted to say in my presentation and didn't. And that is, as a caller, you are the primary social engager. Remember I said you got to be the coolest person in the room to hang with?
Yeah.
The way you do that is on every break, you look for a person that isn't talking to someone.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're sitting at a table and not talking to someone. Yeah. You walk up to them and all you have to say is, "Hey, thanks for coming. You having a good time?" And whatever they say, base your comment on, base your next comment a question about something they said. Mm-hmm. No, how far did you have to drive to get here tonight? Wow, you came 45 minutes? Now, if they ask you a question, or even if something they said reminds you of a personal story, now you have two jobs to do in that personal story. One is you tell it in 30 seconds or less, and number two, you bring up whatever it was they said that reminded you of that story. Don't make the mistake, and I can tell you, and I won't, two very well-known callers who will walk up to a conversation and wait for an opportunity to come to speak, and then they monopolize the conversation as if they're on stage. And everybody's there to listen to them. Yeah. Sorry, guys, you're not the message. We're not the message. We're the messengers. We bring joy to people. We help people create the happiness that they are able to create themselves. We don't bring it and give it to them. That's what I wanted to bring in. How do you go out and you talk to somebody? Well, that's how you do it.
In sociology, the expression is give a little, get a lot, which is one thing that we teach, especially in the military when you're working attaches or working those circuits. But the principle is sound. Everybody likes to talk about themselves. Everybody likes to express, especially when somebody edifies and shows that interest in them. So if you can turn it back to them to express themselves, you are building rapport.
You also may find out about a dog or a cat, a pet that is not doing well. They've been to the vet. And maybe you'll remember that. Maybe you'll next time will says, how is Joey? Whatever the cat's name was. Because for many people, they'll talk about the pain their pets are feeling, but if they've got a child that's having a problem, they may not be willing to talk about that right off the bat. So if you can talk about, if you can remember a pet or something like that, that's a good thing.
Mike, there is one thing I would like to put a qualifier on with that is when you're opening yourself up to absorb their information, sometimes be prepared, because some of the information that's going to come at you is not always going to be that pleasant, and it's along the same line. Well, I'm here because I just wanted to skate because my father died this morning, or something. Just be prepared. It doesn't happen often, but sometimes you have to take that with a grain of salt, because you are sometimes going to get information that you really don't want to have.
Well, point is, if you're in this business, Mel, you got to want it all, whether you like it or not.
Absolutely. Just be prepared for it, because it can
Absolutely.
catch you off guard.
Absolutely can catch you off guard, but just say, well, gosh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm not sure. I'm glad you came.
Mm-hmm.
Allow them to lift themselves out of that moment if they want to. Every once in a while, you run into a person that just wants to complain, and that's why I use my timer on my square view without fail. I set it for 5 minutes. You set it for 6 minutes, whatever you set it for, and set it for your hoedown to start when it goes off. It goes ding, it's loud, and the music starts. And I have had people break off conversation with me to run to get in a square.
And that's always a good feeling.
It regulates your brakes. It gets you out of bad, lousy conversations or all-consuming conversations where you can't talk to anybody else. Use that, because your obligation is to call a good dance. Use that break timer.
And set it audibly so that the dancers know.
Well, I literally have it so loud it wakes people up.
Yeah.
I mean, it would wake up the dead. It really would.
Mike Sikorski's Pavlovian behavioralism for square dance callers.
It actually is Pavlovian responses. When they hear that ding, man, they're going for a square.
Absolutely. Does anyone have any questions for Mike? We don't often get the opportunity because he has a busy schedule. Mike is here talking to us about, as he puts it, branding, but it's your SSR, your ability to build that club, to socialize, to get everybody in so that they always feel welcome regardless. And this is your stage. This is your showmanship. This is your building of rapport. Or as Mike says it, this is your brand. When they hear the name Betsy Gatto or Mike Sikorski or Bob Furr or Brian Clark and Masako Soleus, what do they think of in relation to square dancing? And that is your all-consuming focus for not being there. They hear your name, they want to know you, and they want to get to know you better. And when you can achieve that, you've got success. Mike, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time to come in and see us, especially on our off weekend. And thanks for interrupting your schedule. And thanks to the boss for putting everything together. I got her email. That'll be posted as well. And Brian, I believe, was it you or give me a second here. My names are going. You were going to send the video to Mark?
I am, Stephen.
That was Stephen.
Steve. Yeah. Couldn't. Mine's only the second thing to go. So but I want to say thank you very much. And let's open the floor. Mike, we've still got a few minutes. So let's open the floor. Mike, if your game, we'll open it to any topic.
Well, we can, but before we do that, I want to thank everyone for being here today.
And I'm just going to put something back up on the screen as soon as I find it again.
Oh, Mike, I'm curious about your caller school. So if you could talk a little bit about how you do your caller school.
My caller school, every session, first of all, always starts with a warm-up. You will not find anybody clearing the throat or missing notes or having a hard time getting air in a 9 o'clock calling spot. It doesn't happen. We warm up, and everybody should be taught to warm up. Then you learn to carve out your own. I still warm up to this day before I go to call a dance, depending on how tight my throat feels, depending how much I do. Now, the school itself schools are 40 hours in 3-hour sessions, except for one of them's a 4-hour, brings it to the total of, so call it 9 3-hour sessions and a 4-hour session. You get a minimum of 15 minutes per session on the mic. It's a total of more than 3 hours per. And you're on the mic from the beginning. I have people that don't know how to call. They just come, they don't have a mic, they don't have music. One, I tell them ahead of time, download SquareView, download SD Caller. These are free programs, one for choreo building, one for managing your music. And as such, I have had people where I stand up on stage and I whisper calls in their ear and have them regurgitate it, so they get something they can call come out of their mouth and people move.
Yeah, you should probably not use the term on the mic. You should use the term on the microphone, because on the mic could assume that they could be on you.
Oh, okay. I'll take for that for the humor that it's worth. Good point. Okay, so on the microphone, when they're so I put them up there. I had a lady who wanted to call. I had to do this with her the first session, and on the last session, she actually had written some material. It didn't work. She laid the paper down and side called him home. That's from me whispering calls in her ear the first session. That happened again. I had 3 in this last caller school, so they got a lot of mic time. It was in excess of 5 hours per student for the school. And I had 2 of them married. I had to whisper calls in their ear. They kind of wanted to work on singing calls. But for the last session, I had all 3 of them on stage doing 3 calls apiece. And these people that I had to whisper calls in their ear were actually putting 3 calls together that worked over and over and over and over again because of all that mic time and all that work. They find out what they don't know, they find out what they do know, and they want to learn more, and they work hard at it. And at one point, she did get kind of frustrated, and she said her 3 calls were sides, face, grand, square, Alaman left, right, left, grand, and I'm out. So I did ask her to do a few more, and she did. But I've tried to focus on every single student. I will find you at your level, and I will then take you in a direction that, number 1, you didn't know you could achieve that much. Number 2, it'll be a direction you can easily achieve. It'll make sense to you, and it'll spur you to learn more. That's my theme, and that's what I do. Did I answer the question?
Yes, I'm just curious. You said you did 2 schools already this year, so you won't do any schools till next year then?
At this point, those 2 are on the books. I'm looking at opportunities to try and do others, but no, they are not scheduled at this time. So
Okay,
one of them is Crew, Virginia. It might move to Blackstone, but it'll be just outside of Richmond. And then the other one is at the they used to call it the Shoe Leather Express. It's in Gloversville, New York. That's where we do that one. It's upstate, near Johnstown.
That's amazing. I had 2 clubs in that area 100 years ago. Twin City Squares.
Huh.
Yeah. Who got you into that one?
Elaine McInnes.
Okay.
She, with some of her retirement money, they bought an old church, refurbished it, and they hold dances there. Dennis is a cuer, and he would love to be a caller, but he does not want to upstage her. There's many times where he's wanted to speak up because he's caught onto patter concepts before her. and knew what the answer should be and could see all the combinations of stuff. And so he might end up being a caller too, but that's where I go, and that's how I got in there.
Super.
And I would recommend, if you have never been to one of Mike's schools, go. It is well worth it. And as it says, he takes the approach, which I absolutely marvel at. It's not the same. It's the same as what he does here. It's not here's a presentation, here's death by PowerPoint, here's a bunch of material. That's your school. Now go away and learn it for the next year and come back next year to get the same stuff. It's who are you? Where are you at? I'm coming to you. You don't have to come to me.
We'll have
And-
little chats about business and things like that when people are tired. The helpers are tired, the callers are tired, they want to rest, they need a brain break. We'll talk about a few things like that, but I have no sit-down pre-planned lectures.
Yeah.
None.
How many people usually attend, or do you have a limit?
I've had anywhere from 3 to 11. I've decided that 8 is max.
Okay.
I used to have 12 one time. Really had my hands full. Fortunately, we had a lot of helpers. One thing that's also different about my schools is that it starts at $279, which is cheaper than most schools. Now, if you bring one helper that'll be there to be in the helper square, your tuition has gone down to $259. And then if you invite a second one, it's $239. You can bring it down with a third one to $219. What happens is I get real dancers at my school. So if you call Dixie Style Do Away, Boys Trade, and Relay the Doocy, and everybody breaks down, you're going to get some real-time information that maybe I shouldn't call that.
Mickey.
Yeah, I do that in my caller schools as well. So we always have dancers so the callers can concentrate on the calling part and not get worn out by standing around and doing the whatever the calls being done by other callers, unless we have a body flow session. Everything Mike put out so much for today in the meeting was cool, valuable information. And I heard that you're celebrating your birthday on the 5th of November. Is it correct?
That is correct. And nobody in America knows what that means, but it's Guy Fawkes Day.
Okay. I only know that there's a Q you've got on the program, Ronnie Fontaine. Is it correct too?
Yeah, she's the cuer on that day. Yeah, that dance, I told them that's my birthday. So they're going to have I'm calling the dance for them. They're going to have a birthday celebration for me and the whole thing.
Well, she knows me since I was a kid. She was over here in Germany. So you may want to say hello to her from Mickey.
I'll do that.
That'd be cool.
I'll absolutely do that.
Yeah.
Are we expected to blow up Parliament?
Boy, I certainly hope not. Everybody look up that Guy Fawkes. Yeah, they had a program on TV about him that explained a whole bunch about it, but there's still a town in England that they make blow up dummies of all the leaders of the day. So today it'd be Joe Biden, it'd be Putin, it'd be whoever's the leaders of the day, and they march them down the street and they cheer and they throw them all on a bonfire.
Yeah, but they will not do that in Great Britain because they probably don't know who's the leader at that time.
Well, they might not. You know what? But they might just take, here's all the ones we've had, so we'll just make dummies of them. So I guess I'm the only one with a notable birthday.
Oh, I don't know. It's definitely a special day.
That is for sure. That is for sure. Mickey, I will do that for you. I'll see you around you Saturday night. Well,
Thank you. Don't forget the hug, right?
that's right.
Yeah.
Any other questions, statements?
The floor is open, ladies and gentlemen. So we seem to
just a single comment from me. Now Mike's club figured out what to do with their dancers, but there were a couple of other clubs in the Arizona area that were doing SSD, and they really hadn't thought about how they were going to incorporate them. So as a new caller, I took advantage of that, and I had available to me a hall at one of the RV parks. And I simply announced that I was going to do a month of SSD and easy mainstream, and I did. And I had 3 or 4 squares pretty consistently from the 2 or 3 other clubs that were trying to use SSD and then not figuring out how to incorporate those people into their plus dancing. Anyway, it was good for me. It gave me some exposure and some practice, and it was good for those dancers, and it gave the clubs some time to think about what they were doing. And it was nice to hear that one of them decided to dance every other week plus and mainstream, although that club since has gone back to doing just plus and essentially are abandoning their new dancers. Well, they're sending them to Mike, but they're not supporting them by continuing, and they can't get their plus dancers to come dance with their new dancers. And I can tell you that those dances were as good as any other dance I've attended. Anyway, it's just interesting, the politics. Yeah, Mike celebrated 50 years of calling, so he must be 55 this year.
No, I think you have to be older than that to qualify for Medicare.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say again, thank you very, very much to Mike Sikorski for giving us time to come in and for the presentation. The video, once it's sorted out, will be on the OC Callers webpage, as will a copy of Mike's presentation. You can download it from there. I posted his contact details into the chat, so if you do need to get a hold of him, and if you want to get a hold of the Activator System Volume 1 and 2, you can contact Mike directly for that at his email address, which should be in the chat. I think I put that in the chat as well. arizonacaller@gmail.com.
That's correct. I want to add one more thing in here, Mel, before we all
Absolutely.
sign off. Bob brought it up, and Bob might not even know this. There was the things I've observed and whatever. We've got lots of situations where we have a hard time moving SSD people into the next program. They don't know what it's doing, and they're not prepared to just dance that level. We've got areas like Southern California that are trying to teach, here's how you circle left all the way through relay the Ducey and load the boat. And so I actually designed a teaching program that I call Short Plus, and I'm using it with all 3 of my schools. And so it's basically SSD, we add back in Spin the Top, Dixie Style, and Cloverleaf, and then the 14 most fun plus calls. And that is something we can teach, and I can have them through that the end of March. I think it's worth noting, one of my students has to do this sort of thing because in her area, she'll have a square one night that we want to learn 3 ways to do relay the Ducey, and the next night it's, can you review Spin the Top for us, please? And so she's doing this amalgamation of levels, and what she found was the mainstream calls are very hard to learn, but the plus calls, they learn like eating a piece of cake. They get through relay the Ducey, spin, chain, exchange the gears, coordinate, ping pong, circulate, track 2. They get through those in no time. And when they see the helpers doing them, they want to do them. So this whole point of what I did with the Short Plus is get them to that level, dance them that way for 3 months, and then teach the rest of the calls.
Seems like an ironically named program considering how tall you are. Yeah, when they hear Short Plus, they would think that Ratucci created that.
Is Ken here?
No.
No,
Oh darn! I wanted him to hear that.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
Mel, this is a great thing. I've referred this to all of my callers school students, so I'm sure they can't all attend all the time, but I've spoken well of your session. I've attended other ones, and I thought they were well presented as well. And so I think this is a great effort.
High praise indeed. Yeah. Well, this and all the other ones are available on the OC Callers website. And like I said, what I like about these sessions is we get to talk in detail, but it's not just, here's a PowerPoint presentation. Thank you. Have a nice day. Now go away. It is, and sometimes, as Mike can attest from his last session, sometimes you're put on the spot with some questions, and that's the ideal, is everybody gets to be thoughtfully challenged about how they themselves look at what it is they're doing. And that self-introspection, as Mike said, with branding, being able to look at yourself and say, what does this mean to me and how do people see me, is a great thing right across the whole aspect of calling, not just your choreography. Mike, once again, thank you very much. You know, you're always welcome. And if you want to come do another session sometimes, please just let me know.
Just drop me a line of what you want and when. And if anybody wants that short plus list, I can email it to anybody. Just send me an email.
Well, if you want to send it to me, I can get that posted up on the website as well.
Okay, I'll do it.
With the documents. So thank you very much, everybody. If nobody has any more questions or comments or discussion, I think we might actually call it an early day. My wife is going back and forth outside my office window here with the lawnmower. I don't know if that's a subtle hint or if she's just enjoying herself cutting the lawn because we have a nice day today for a change.
Oh, don't hold that discussion too long, Mel.
So thank you very much for coming in. And if nobody has anything else, I hope you all have a great weekend.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thanks a lot.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, bye-bye.
And Steve, thanks for recording that and getting that to Mark. Hi, Masako. Didn't get a chance to say hi earlier, but hope you're doing well.